All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another week of everyone's favorite rest and relaxation podcast, the Zen Hour with Ursinity and Proud of Theorycrafting Thursday.
Hello, everyone.
To begin this lovely podcast, as we always do, we will take a deep breath and clear ourselves of any negative emotions, thoughts, or other mental
Ethereal toxins.
Exactly.
Right.
So, everyone,
get ready.
Deep breath. Oh my god, that was alarming. And on that note, Proud has showed us how not to relax, and I'm very not relaxed, and now we're going to talk about Dota. Because this is a Dota podcast, usually, sometimes. On that note, I apologize for everybody using headphones, because boy, that probably hurt you. The Dota 2 is a game we play. Proud, now that you're all zenned out, how's your week in Dota been, my dear boy, my good friend?
It was maybe kind of bad. I feel like every week I play solo ranked, and I'm like, I can't do anything but play Luna. I just have to play Luna every game. Not that I can't, but I'm like, there's no, like, if I lose to a Luna, and I'm like, I have to play Luna. Like, I don't have another option. Or, like, I lose to a Druid, and I was like, I have to play Luna or Lone Druid every game, and it just sucks. And then I, like, lose a bunch, and then I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to play Shadow Fiend, or I'm going to play Sven, or I'm going to play Axe offlane or something like that. And I'm like, man, I won all those games. Or, like, I picked Quap mid, and then someone like randomed, because like, you know, there was some like 4400 guy who was like, I'm gonna mid, and I was like, buddy, no you ain't, I'm gonna play Queen of Pain. And he was like, you could see my MMR is like 5100 or something. He's like, you know what, I'm just mad now, so I'm just gonna random. And he randoms Invoker, and I'm like, guess I'm off Queen of Pain, because I'm not gonna deal with this motherfucker playing a offlane Invoker. And like, I won that game very handily. And then I'm like, okay, wait, you know what? I can actually play things besides Luna and Lone Druid and just win anyways. And then the week turns over, and I forget that every week. So it was bad, and now it's good.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I used to try to keep up with your fluctuations in MMR, but now it's just like every time I look at your account, it's something vastly different than what it was before. Yep. It's like the other day I checked and you were at exactly 5,000 MMR, and I was like, oh boy, things must not be great. And then I look again, and it's like, oh, you're 5,100, and then it's like, oh, you never know. Yeah,
no, it fluctuates a lot. It's really just like the like tide that I find myself in. Things change pretty drastically. I've been doing great with sniper mid though. Like a lot of these matchups that I'm supposed to be losing on sniper mid, like if you just play extra aggressive with like level 1 or at level 1 or level 3 with your early shrapnel, and just like drop 3 shrapnels on someone, and they're just like, shit, I can't play this lane anymore. This shrapnel is absurd. Like, and the main thing I'm doing with Sniper now that's like helped me a shit ton is, you start Wraithband, Branch, Fairy Fire for, whatever damage you can get with 2 shared Tengos, and you buy a salve. And the first thing I do is I just finish an Aquila. Like that's what I used to do on Arc Warden. And it's really good for, I do the same thing on Shadow Fiend now too, but just like my first bit of gold goes into just like giving me plus 19 damage instead of plus 9. And it's honestly super good. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. I know when to do that. Normally I do Wraithband, what's called Branch, Tango, Tango, Salve.
Branch, Fairy Fire,
Salve, Fairy Fire. But then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just rush in and get Boots Windlace and like rush phase boots.
That's interesting.
And then just a mobility thing. But I definitely see the logic behind that. I normally obviously finish Aki, but I normally finish it last of my starting things. So that makes sense.
It's just like 500 gold, and then it turns into for like plus 10 damage, which doesn't sound too crazy, but then it also fills out your stats pretty decently.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good. It makes you tankier with the armor. When I do say it like that, like 500 gold for 10 damage, it's actually not that insane. But I mean, also like the armor, everything that Aquila gives you is good.
Yeah. I historically have been playing a good deal of sniper mid in the last like few months, and it's nice. I will say like the only matchup that I really hate is PA versus sniper, but even that is totally mitigated if you just have somebody rotate to your lane and help every once in a while. Like I had a 70-minute PA game the other day in it was like I think it was just high skill. Actually no, it was very high skill, unranked. And the enemy team like random sniper first pick, and I was like, oh well, I'll counter it with PA. And then they had, what was it? I think they had a Pudge that just was in the lane the entire time. It was just one of those
Yes, you couldn't
situations
go
like,
aggressive at all.
yeah, like I technically counter this, and I know this matchup is miserable to play for sniper, except in this game it just is completely inapplicable because every time like I get like 2 dagger crits in a row, and I try to dive him, and then either he'd get hooked away from me by Pudge, or I would get hooked and killed by Pudge. It was freaking miserable, dude.
Yeah, that's the worst. Like when you know, like I should be, shitting on this concept of a matchup, but there's a Pulka, and I am a sad friend.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, in my week in Dota, no sniper games for me. I'm playing Zeus actually. I used to play a lot of Zeus like a long time ago, but recently I've seen like a few really strong Zeus players and stuff like that, and then I've just wanted to play Zeus, and every game I play Zeus, it feels really, really good because he offers that kind of a high magic damage hero while not being countered by raindrops because he burns them so quickly. And like it's
like he presses Q and then it's on cooldown, so then he just tears through you anyways.
Yeah, it's like when somebody has a raindrop and you're playing sniper. It's like, okay, I don't care about your raindrop because every single shrapnel charge is gonna pop like 2+ charges of raindrop.
Yeah, or like, you ulti them and then the raindrop mitigates most of the damage and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that too. Man, I had that happen to me actually recently.
Yep, I was in that game and you were like, what? That should have killed him. And I was like, maybe it was a raindrop. And you're like, God damn it.
Yeah, man, raindrops are not fun. But that is a nice bit of a catharsis because I do love my spellcasters and I do hate that so many of them are so gimped in a core position by a raindrop. Although, like, Skywrath is another good example of, like, I friggin' hate Skywrath mid, but sometimes it works out, and it is just like, oh boy, theoretically I counter this hero with a raindrop, except he burns it all for, like, 70 mana, so screw you. But yeah, so I play a lot of Zeus. Zeus has been very fun. Got that new cosmetic form, too. Other than that, I played a bunch of games as a roaming 4, which is not something I do regularly. That's one of my roles that I don't play often. I had a Tusk game, which I just like played terribly. I think I was streaming for that game, but eventually, Tusk is one of those heroes that's deceptively difficult, I'll say. When you see Tusk, at least for me, whenever I see Tusk players on the enemy team or on my team and they do really well, I'm like, okay, well, all he's doing is like snowballing and punching people, and like, oh, sure, he has good shards placement, whatever, anybody could do that. Or like, oh man, like he has nice micro of the ward, which doesn't seem that complicated, but when you're actually playing the Tusk, it is like a whole nother level of commitment to like complicated things. There's a lot of under the surface complications with Tusk, at least in my experience as a not Tusk player playing Tusk. But that was fun. I mean, we lost that game and I played terribly for like the first 15 minutes, although I did pull it around. But man, like that hero, he's a good time. And
do you think he's good? Do you think Discurrent Slardar is like actually good?
I don't think he's good, but I think he is pickable, and I think Snowball is still like one of those abilities that has like so much potential.
Sure.
And I mean, his talents are pretty solid, and like he can, if you're playing against squishy supports or squishy cores, like you can really just like, as far as his support go, you can just output a ton of damage, like Laguna Blade equivalent damage, but like physical, and like he has stuns and all that. Like he's an okay hero, honestly. Like I don't think he's terrible, but I definitely don't think he's great, and I do definitely agree that he is basically a discount Slardar that's a little more flashy.
Yeah. I just changed the mic setting real quick because I realized I was on the wrong thing. So if I sound any different, friends, welcome to the new world. I've been playing a little bit of Doom, similar to last week, but it's been I've been playing it as a 4, and not necessarily because I think it's better as a 4. I do like it the way that we played it, where it was like I was the core, but you were in lane for the most part, and it was just me walking in and out of it, and then what became like a lot more of a core thing. I think that's the best way to go about it, but it is really hard to organize that in a pub. So I just kind of like made my other support really upset until I was level 10, and then I took care of buying every support item.
Yeah.
I did buy one ward at the start so they wouldn't like complain, and then at some point they were like, wait a second.
Yeah, I've been duped.
30 seconds, and no one has upgraded the courier, and this Doom isn't saying shit, and he's just jungling. And I was just like, don't worry about it, babe, we're good. But I bought support items later on. But yeah, it's like I think he's good as a 4 in pubs. I think like Stan King is playing him too. Someone specifically told me that I don't, stalk Stan King as much as I should. But
Yeah.
whatever. I did fine. I bought 7 wards and 6 sentries, and it's in a smoke. I was a support. Fuck you.
Yeah. 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 I'm not gonna bring it up. Okay.
What?
Let's say I had an experience. I played a Rubik game on stream the other day. Actually, this is my first
Yep.
stream in a while, and coincidentally, on my team was everybody's good friend Grand Grant,
Oh, that was
and
on stream. I want to watch that.
yeah, it was on stream. Oh, and not to get Dota scene political, but I will say he played Dazzle, and would you like to know how many wards he bought in this 50-minute game?
Racial slurs on his Twitter banner. Maybe that number.
He bought 3, and we were against
Oh,
a Invis hero.
okay.
So that was that, and then he flamed our entire team all game. So,
Wow, that is a
you know,
surprise. Hey, on that
it
note, I
was.
played. Do you know EDJE? I think I told you about this.
Yeah, you
Uh,
did tell me about this, but feel free to tell the listeners.
yeah, so he's like the dude that makes like a better way to play blank videos, and he used to make those like source filmmakers. Like when a patch comes out, he'd make like anti mages like a roommate or something, and like they were like kind of cute or whatever. And his better way to play videos are always like, oh, here's how you can play this here in a weird way, and they're normally pretty weird, but they have some okay ideas behind them. But I played a pub with this dude, and I have never met a more unpleasant figure to play a game with. It was brutal. It was like on stream too. He played core warlock and was so adamant about it. Like he tried to take safe lane, and I was like, no, you're not doing that. Tried to take off or take mid, and then our mid player was like, buddy, you're not doing that. And then he took off lane, which is fine. Off lane lich is like okay. We did that a lot at the start of the patch, but he just like wouldn't use sacrifice, and he was so we had a 5 position solo supporting Oracle that was level 21, and our core lich quote unquote was level 18. I was like, what are you doing? Like, how can you like make videos about odd, cool ways to play heroes, and then have a hero that like gains extra experience as like his only interesting mechanic, and you're lower level than a 5? By not just like 1 level, by like 3 fucking levels. And I would just eventually he muted me because I was just like, buddy, sacrifice is off cooldown. Buddy, we need you. Your sacrifice is off. And it's just like goes a minute by not using sacrifice, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Anyway, that was like the worst experience of my life. We lost that game hard. Ugh. And he was like raging the entire time that the team was like making mistakes. It's like, you just have had sacrifice off cooldown for a minute. Like, all you got to do is see that there is a ranged creep in your vicinity, press E and click it, and like then your idea can go off. But like if you want to screw up our entire team and like not ever come to a team fight under a shrine when you have Chain Frost off cooldown, and you're not even going to use sacrifice, like, please never make a video about how to play Dota again for the rest of your life.
Well, yeah, so that's been our not so weekly Let's Flame community people segment. Or not really community people. Well, I guess they are community people.
He's dropped off. I'm allowed to vent.
Yeah. Anyway, that's that. So get to a high MMR, and then you can play with people like this. It'll be great.
Yeah, he wasn't even 5K.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about our segment. So our segment this week is something that was a little harder to name, but the basic concept of this segment is how to change builds based around your teammates. So this is, I guess, probably just to give the easiest example of this, is the very simple thing where you add CC items to your build if your team lacks CC, right? So if your team has 2 supports that don't have stuns, and an off laner that has no stuns, and a mid laner that has no stuns, and you're playing safe lane, maybe you're going to build an Abyssal Blade when you normally would like to not build an Abyssal Blade, or you're going to build a Scythe on the mid laner because you don't have a Scythe.
Yeah,
That's
actually,
like,
that's like exactly what happened in my Queen of Pain game. I
yeah,
went like, what did I go? I went Veil first because I was offlane and I just wanted to help out the team. And then I needed to be like in the middle of these fights, and they had OD Nyx Assassin and Lion, so my build was literally just like Bottle Treads, Veil, BKB, and then just Scythe, just Sheepstick immediately.
yeah,
And it was
like the old
incredible.
build.
Like we just didn't have a lot of lockdown, so I just got a sheep really early, and it turned the whole game.
Yeah. So this, I think, is a good example of a concept that has very obvious applications, like the one we just brought up, and then it also has very some more complicated applications. One of the less complicated ones, but still fairly one thing that people tend to not think about is if you have a CM on your team, which is one of the heroes we'll be playing this week, you're going to have all the magic regen from her aura, which is going to change how you itemize or skill, or even, I suppose, pick certain talents based around the fact that you now have mana regen that you would not otherwise have. So on Sniper, for instance, maybe to bring this back to Sniper, if you were thinking, oh, I need mana regen, and I'm going to build that Aquila, if you had a CM on your team, you might think, all right, mana regen is not a problem at all because I have the extra, however many points she's put in her aura, and that's going to mean, okay, I'm just going to get my phase boots or my treads or what have you that much faster.
I'll get the blade of attack for my phase boots for my damage increase rather than finish an Aquila and then just get my phase boots that much faster.
Yeah, or like another good example of this is when I play Invoker, if I have a CM on my team, that mana regen aura is so integral to new Invoker who has like terrible mana always. It's so integral to his success in lane that I will, if I don't have it, I'll end up going for like a Bassi and a what's it called, and a range route. Or if you're playing Quaswex, you go for Urn. Although you'd probably still go for Urn. But if you're playing with a CM on your team, you can either skip both the Bassi and the range drop or just get one or the other. So that's one of those little things that really impacts your early game and even sometimes mid game itemization.
Can you think of some other items that would like? Because I mean, for the really early game, there's a lot of things like Bassi. There's a lot more to the Bassi than the regen. A lot of it is the ability to push with the aura. The armor aura, that is not the mana aura. Just overall, it's slot efficient and buffs up your Wraithband that you already have pretty decently. But the main thing I'm thinking of right now is like an Echo Saber. Like let's say you're Sven or something. Especially with the Helm of the Dominator giving you attack speed, and you get 30 attack speed at level 20. There's just in general less because I mean the more attack speed you have, the less interesting Echo Saber becomes, because Echo Saber like gives you attack speed, or gives you pseudo attack speed,
effective attack speed.
Yeah, and the less attack speed you have, the more like effective attack speed it's actually giving you.
Which is like
whole conversation. But
and that's why it is. Yeah, and that's why, for instance, PA doesn't build Echo Saber in any respectable PA game, because it has such great diminishing returns with Phantom Strike or Blink Strike, whatever that ability is called.
Yeah, they completely counter each other. Anyway, so like Sven has some attack speed already, so the proc from Echo Saber isn't as incredible as it used to be. And if the mana regen is completely redundant with a CM on your team, you almost have no reason to buy the item at all. So I feel like a lot of heroes, like maybe even Slark, I would feel a lot more comfortable going Silver Edge first on Slark rather than getting like an Echo Saber if I just didn't need the mana regen at all with the CM on your team. So like whether or not you get Echo Saber, that's definitely somewhere I'd look. Lifestealer, I would definitely go Deso, like Armlet Deso instead of like Armlet Echo Deso. I think that would be like a lot better. Maybe with Weaver, you'd be a lot more comfortable not getting an early Lincoln Sphere if you have that mana regen going on for you.
Yeah, or I mean, even just delaying items is a whole other thing. Or I think probably the biggest thing that changes when I have a CM on my team is if I'm playing an aggressive hero, like let's say a Bristleback, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive and throw out some extra quill sprays or some extra goos. Whereas if I didn't have that regen, I'd be thinking a little more carefully about like, oh boy, well, I only have 125 mana, which means I can do 5 quill sprays. And if I do that many, then, yada, 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 X, Y, and Z happens. So I do think that's another big noticeable thing is, if you're playing Shadow Fiend, you can get one extra raise out every couple minutes or whatever. Or even less than that, actually, like one raise a minute.
Yeah, that's more of like a play style thing than because like there's a couple ways you can go about it. One, you can just have less mana regen, or two, you can have a similar amount of mana regen and just use your spells that much more. Like whenever I have a Sam on my team, I always talk about you want to be using all of your resources in Dota, and health regen plus health regen and mana regen are both tools to be used in the lane. So if you're at full mana, you're effectively just not utilizing your mana regen. So you could just throw a random nuke. Like if I'm on Sven and I have 360 max mana and I have a CM aura going, I might as well just throw out one stun for the damage, because I'll still have a stun in my back pocket and I'll have enough mana regen that I'll have another one in a few seconds too. So yeah, like if you've got that going on, that's a play style thing, not really an itemization thing. That you're not really changing your build up, but it's stuff to think about.
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, you're making changes to your
To the
Dota game
game. Yeah.
predicated on the fact that you have, a C on your team. So let's go to another example of this. I think the one that we were talking about before when we were brainstorming is having Magnus in power as a
Yeah.
carry, right? And well, I guess you could talk about this.
Yeah, so this is so OG loved playing Miracle Magnus and No Tail on Juggernaut, and No Tail's build on Juggernaut was like vastly different the second there was a Magnus in game.
Uh-huh.
Normally, this was kind of back in the days of when Battle Fury was an option, not necessarily when you were always going it, but it was certainly an option. And Maelstrom was like just getting big, and he was actually, I think it was mostly No Tail who was going Maelstrom early on that kind of started that trend. But when he had a Magnus on his team, he had what it was like phase Aki, Drum, a bunch of stat items back when Drum was decent. Enough health regen from the Drum that you were fine. You didn't need to build, I don't know, like a early Vanguard or something like
Yeah.
I used to enjoy doing. But yeah, you just get like phase Drum, Aki, Mantis style, and then you wouldn't even go like Abyssal or Blink or whatever after that. He would just go straight Scotty, and he just had an absurd amount of stats. No cleave on his hero, no AoE damage, but he had the Empower, and Empower works off your base damage too. So it made what looks like a really defensive, kind of like do nothing build, and turned it into like an absurd amount of damage while having absurd amount of stacks, making you like really tanky. So like when you, let's say like when PA used to go Battle Fury, when you would have a Magnus on your team, that used to be like, oh man, Magnus plus PA is so good because like you can have a Battle Fury but not waste all your money for a worthless fucking Battle Fury.
Yeah.
AM now I would say is kind of similar because if you do have the Empower to fall back on, you can get away with more of the fighting build, like the Helm of the Dominator and the Maelstrom into Manta and that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. I know that's something that a lot of times I would say people are just like, okay, this is just a buff, and then like they just build their standard items, they keep going, they still build their Battle Fury on whoever PA or AM, but then they just think, okay, well I'll have extra damage, but it is an extra level of let's see, what's the proper way to word this? It's an extra way to play the game and really optimally play when you
Yeah,
factor in like,
it's
okay,
another like
not
factor to build around that can like
yeah.
radically alter the effectiveness of certain items.
Yeah, like yes, you're right. Like it is just a flat buff in some regards, but when you think about it as more than just, oh, I'm doing more damage in an AoE, that's when you really get to like, okay, well, what needs is this supplementing? What opportunities is this creating? Is this increasing the value of certain items? Is it decreasing the value of others?
Yeah, can I
That's what
make
you really
more
think
out
about.
of it than just, oh, my previous state is now elevated? Can I make it into, oh, now
Yeah,
I have an entirely other state that I can utilize?
exactly. So let's see. Another example that I was thinking about a lot was if you have multiple initiators on your team, like let's
Yeah.
say using the previous example of like you're running a safe lane Jug and a mid Magnus, if you have like an off lane Axe as well, which as a team comp this sounds like a mess, but just keep going with it anyway.
Yeah.
The Magnus is going to be your initiator, right? In a lot of instances, and so he's going to go for blink. So if you're playing, and let's say he has a good lane, right? So he's going to get a blink pretty early. The
Well,
off lane,
depending. I mean, a lot of Agnes, you see the Echo
yeah, the
Saber
Echo
now.
Saber,
Yeah.
yes.
But
Although
let's
not so
just
much
say,
anymore since they nerfed his level 10 talent. A lot of
yeah,
people
I
are
mean,
just
it's
going back
still,
to playing utility mag.
that's so
But yeah,
depressing
it's
to
still
me.
very popular. I mean, I like I respect the old ways of the utility mag, although I will
The
agree
old
that it was
ways.
exciting.
It was great.
The Anyway, to ignore the viability of this particular team comp and just use it as a example, if you have an initiator as a mid, and you're playing and the axe, he can, instead of going in for a blink dagger right away, he can go like Tranquil's Vanguard and then blink or something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
Because he does not, the onus is not on him to initiate. The initiation is going to come from somebody else, right?
Sure,
Similarly,
yeah.
let's
If you
say,
you have like an earth spirit or something that's doing a lot of your initiation, or a spirit breaker, then yeah,
yeah,
you're a a jungle axe for some goddamn reason, and then you have like a Slardar off lane or something that's doing well. Like yeah, if you do have the option, like if it's kind of like, oh, you could go blink first, or I don't know, maybe you could go Vanguard first. Like if you do have those options, you can look at your team and they can give you like some clues on what the actual proper correct decision is going to be.
yeah, absolutely. So basically, I don't know if you have any additional examples off the top of your head. Those were kind of my
Yeah,
three.
sure. When you have Drow on your team and Drow's giving you a ton of plus damage, you can itemize more for attack speed. Like as far as just like pure like from a carry perspective, a lot of this stuff is coming from. Although if I did want to talk about support things, I would go back to the Crystal Maiden idea, or how many because like if you have Crystal Maiden on your team, you maybe don't have to rush your mana boots quite as fast. Instead, you can finish out like a wand and a windlace before trying to like get those mana boots as fast as possible, and you don't have to buy as many clarities and that sort of thing. But like from more of the carry perspective, I would say if you ever got like minus armor going on, like if I have a Slardar on Lifestealer, I'll probably go for the Armlet Deso rather than Armlet Echo Deso. If I'm playing Lone Druid and I have a Slardar on my team, I'm going to, instead of go like Dragonlance Maelstrom, I'll probably go Dragonlance Deso. If I'm like just various stuff like that, like you wanna optimize around anytime there's, I mean, it's pretty similar to playing with Empower. Like, oh, I have a thing that gives me more base or more, higher damage based on my base damage. Guess it's time to go, base like things that give me base damage, like stats. Oh, I have a teammate that puts out a lot of minus armor. Guess me focusing more on a minus armor kind of strategy rather than pouring my damage into like this magic stuff like MKB and Maelstrom and that sort of thing. Like, isn't quite as good this game. I feel there's a lot of things you can play around like that if you're just aware of what general auras or other things that your team's doing that can benefit you. Like Drow specifically, like if I'm playing Shadow Fiend, there's not that you go Deso that much on Shadow Fiend anyway, but if I have a Drow on my team and I'm Shadow Fiend, like I'm not gonna go Deso. I'm not gonna get like an early crit or something like that under any circumstance. I'm gonna be mostly focusing on like attack speed or other percentage modifiers for my damage, like Bloodthorn or a Daedalus or something like that, or just Butterfly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think so. The one thing that's come to mind, which I think in my mind, as somebody who has played on a team with Proud for many a moon, probably the most proud example of changes in itemization based on teammates is mana boots on certain heroes, or the value of mana boots on certain heroes. So constantly, I think if anybody watches the Sunday stream team, I would say maybe 2 out of 3 games every time somebody's like, okay, should I go Tranks or mana boots? And it's like a resounding build mana boots, or oh, we have enough. Almost never have enough. But mana boots, I think, is the best example on certain heroes. So I guess just use Abaddon as an example. A lot of people like the very tried and true old build where people would do Tranquil Boots Soul Ring. But in a lot of games, it's like, okay, well, if you do that, you're helping yourself. Yeah, sure, whatever. But our team needs mana boots, right? Like, let's say we have, an off-lane Axe and a safe lane Juggernaut and a mid, I don't know, Sniper.
Storm Spirit. Well, Sniper doesn't need mana. Storm Spirit.
Okay, Storm Spirit. Or Shadow Fiend, another example of here that needs mana but does not build mana boots.
Totally.
Because Storm gets some regen. But anyway,
he loves that mana though.
And then let's say your other support, let's say you're running like Abaddon Venge, then you're gonna say, all right, we need both of you to build mana boots, right? It's not the option. Like Venge, normally she'd like to go treads, yeah, sure, or tranquils, but you don't have that option. Like we need mana and we need it now. So I think that's a really big one just to think of, and that's like one thing that like comes up constantly, right?
Yeah, I definitely have a very visceral reaction whenever someone's like, I'm having a bad game, I better go Tranquil Boots Soul Ring. Like, one, I don't even think that's very good. Two,
depends on the hero.
Yeah, there are some heroes where it's acceptable, but a lot of times it's just like, yo, you need a mana pool, buddy. Like, it's not really like you can't be a support and then just like nix 150 health off you and still survive a team fight. Like, that's not gonna work out too well for you. Like something, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, a lot of times you just look at the team and it's like, okay, but we are not going to ever do anything, and after every fight we're going to try to take an objective, and then someone's going to say, wait, I have no mana, and it's just going to go terribly. So like, you gotta read the room, sensei.
Yes. Another good example of this is, let's say the enemy team has a Quaswex Invoker. Then it's like, okay, even if, like, let's say I'm playing CM in this game that we're going to play later, normally, of course, I'm going to go Tranquils, or, as I'll talk about later, Treads. But in some games, it's like, okay, they have a Quaswex Invoker, we need mana and we need it now. We don't need it over the course of regen over minutes. Yeah. So I'm gonna build some mana boots and then get an Aether Lens later. Let's say that's another really big one. Is as a counter to specific heroes. Actually, I
Yeah.
can't think of any other good examples.
If you get
Um,
like an anti-mage or a Nyx assassin,
yes,
that's also
yeah,
like a great way. Nyx especially, like if I'm playing Sven and we're against a Nyx, if anyone can build mana boots and they don't, like
kick them,
I'm gonna
report,
yeah, I'll like report you and then also like I don't know, call
animal
Dog the
control.
bounty hunter and he'll come to your house and be very awkward to you.
Boy, I would not wish that upon my greatest enemy.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more good examples?
Yeah, you're with OD. Nothing matters anymore. Don't get mana regen. Just hug him.
Yeah, that's the go-to.
Just hug him.
Um, okay, so any other items that you could think of? I mean, I'm sure there are
I
some.
think that's pretty good. I mean,
I think
there's
those are
like
the
a
big
lot of.
ones.
I mean, like with I think another one of the classic is there's Omni Knight on my team. I don't need to rush a BKB. Like if I'm Luna with an Omni Knight on my team, I'm gonna go
Yeah,
like Dom, Dragon Lance, Manta, Butterfly, then BKB. You know, like if anytime you can play Luna and get the Butterfly before BKB, you're a happy camper. And an Omni Knight definitely enables that kind of thing.
yeah. Or another good example is okay, we don't have any sustain, so I'm playing like using CM as the example again, and I'm gonna build an urn because we don't have any regen from any other
Yeah,
hero. We have no
no
healing.
healers. Someone better get an urn, or even
Yeah,
just like CM with a Dominator like that.
yeah,
Dominator's the main thing that I think about. Like, do I have no one who builds Dominator on my team right now? I'm just gonna get it. Like, if I'm playing offlane Underlord, I'm gonna go Dom Mech if I have no Dom builder on my team.
yeah. That's makes a lot of sense. So I think basically just to wrap this up into like one larger element, it is the probably the core element of Dota is just it's easy to learn a hero and learn a static build, or even if you're an expert with a hero and have a static build. But it is very important if you're trying to play optimally and you're trying to play at an increasingly higher level to think at a deeper level about your builds. Both, I mean, skill wise, we didn't really get into, but even skill build can change a little bit based on your
Mhm.
allies and, of course, your enemies. But a lot of times I think we think about Dota in a like me against the enemy team, but really you have to think about me plus my allies, how my allies make variations on my own play, and then of course after that you think against the enemy team, right? So using any of these examples, or you could continue that basic line of thought, like
Yeah.
using the AM example from earlier, right? You can do this fighting AM build because of the Magnus on your team. Whereas in other games, you might think, all right, I'm going to do a fighting AM build because the enemy team has X, Y, and Z, right? I
Yeah.
think,
You want to feel like you want to. The ideal is to have a complete picture in your mind what version of your current team, like what your team needs to win this game, and then you start from the top and then you go down and say, okay, who can provide each of these attributes? Like you're against Quaspex and Voker, you say, okay, my team needs to be able to get their mana back. Who on my team can provide us with mana? Oh, these guys can go mana boots. That's good. Or if you're playing with the anti-mage and the magnus, you say, okay, my team needs to be able to fight in the early game. Who can modify what they're doing to fight in the early game? Oh, anti-mage can go this build
yeah,
as like made available by the magnus. So you got to look at like what you think your team needs and who can provide it for you. Like in my Queen of Pain game, I said, okay, we have like a Shadow Demon, a Venge, and like nothing else for crowd control at all. And I'm Queen of Pain. One, we need to fight in the mid game, and they have a bunch of stuns. I need to just immediately get a BKB. We also need CC, BKB into Sheepstick. That's an okay item progression, 4,000 gold item that enables me to fight, followed by like 6,000 gold item that I can use while I'm fighting. Like so that makes sense as a build.
yeah.
If I'm waiting for my Venge to also get a Sheepstick or my Invoker to get a Sheepstick, that's just not going to happen. You gotta start from the top down. Like, what do I need? And then look at okay, who can provide these things? And then also there's just optimization. Like, oh, I have CM Aura. What can I nix? Oh, I don't need Echo Saber if I've got that then.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, again, just to wrap it up, thinking at this deeper level, I think is I always kind of impulsively want to just say if you do X, you're going to gain X amount of MMR because it's a very attractive way to sum things up, and it is
Yeah.
cumulatively proper. Like I think I was talking to Roland about Roland doesn't play with control groups. I don't know if you've had
Okay,
this
I don't
horrible
know if that was. Oh yeah, I wanted to. That's one of the reasons I wanted to record yesterday. Is I was listening to that Q&A and I like, because like whenever I do my own recordings, I'm always thinking like if I was a listener right now, like what would bother me? And like one, Roland saying that stick has 13 charges,
Yes, I
wrong.
noticed that too. It's 10 and
Yeah,
17.
Yeah, no, it's 10 and 17. It used to be 10 and 15, which makes sense, but they buffed wand because it wasn't good enough and people weren't actually buying it. And now it's 10. So anyone else that was also upset. And it's also 15 health and mana per charge. It's not 15 and 10. That's like a holdover of the numbers of one is 15 and the other is 10
Yeah.
from like the upgrading cycle. It's probably 15 and 10. That 15 and 10 had to come from somewhere.
Anyway, yes.
Oh, and there was the dip conversation. I was like, really? The first thing you went to was tobacco dip? You think he just randomly was like, hey guys, everyone smokes, everyone does dip, right? What's your favorite dip to play when you do when you play Dota? It's like, the fuck are you talking about?
It's just the first thing that came to mind. Like,
chips and dip.
Um,
Chips and dip.
because I don't eat dips. That's why it doesn't come to mind. Granted, like I don't chew either, but but anyway,
Yeah, I don't
God,
like
I got off
chips
on
and
such a
dip.
tangent.
That was unbelievable. I was like waiting the entire time. I was like, someone's got to say something. Like when I was listening to that Bald Move podcast you linked, and one of the dudes was like upset with like one thing that they did, and I was like, no, that made the episode sucks, but like that made sense. And then the other dude was like, well, no, because of this. Is like, thank God the voice of reason that I wanted to say appeared. Because if that doesn't happen, like it's just maddening. Like someone's got to tell this person they're wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's how I took the Twitter against .p for a very long time, being like, actually this and this was wrong. God, now I was on like I had a clear train of thought about Roland not using control groups.
Yeah, he wasn't using control groups, and you were saying that you could just like, if he did use control groups that actually controlled properly, he'd gain like 500 MMR.
Exactly right. So
I think he does though. I feel like he just didn't say what he does correctly because a couple times it was like he said he does use control groups, but then like when I pressed about it, he said different things. Like,
yeah,
I had a conversation with him about that before.
Me too. Like when I was
I don't know.
When I was showing him how to play Naga, he didn't even know you could do control groups until then, and I was like, I blew his mind, and then now he's like, oh, I don't use them. Anyway, that was a weird tangent to get on.
I was talking to Cyphus, and like the difference between Cyphus and Roland is like Cyphus is bad but very competent, and Roland is good but extremely incompetent, and like that is the perfect example of it.
That is a very accurate statement. I think
that's totally them.
Yeah, that should be on a shirt right there. With all varying degrees of competency, them being a very stark contrast.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not even gonna try to get back on my chain of thought.
Good. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
I'm not even gonna try to get back on my original train of thought, and we're just gonna go into our heroes. So for this week, like I said earlier, I'm gonna be playing Crystal Maiden, and Proud is gonna be playing PL in the mid lane, which is something that honestly I didn't talk to you about because I want to talk about it on the podcast because I've seen it before, but not recently, and I want to hear your reasoning behind why you want to do this.
So D2 Bowie, who I love to death, please consume his content. It's not, not in direct competition with us, so I'm totally cool, saying it's the best. It's incredible. It's really, really good. His content, that is, and he showed a video of Sumail playing PL mid that looked really attractive. It's played basically just by you just work around the Aghanim Scepter, and he turns into kind of like a spell spammer, and you play it as a mid lane basically. Not basically. You are in the mid lane, and you act more of like a disruption engine, and not necessarily a team fight controller, but like a team fight anti-controller. Just through your existence, you just sow like extreme discord throughout the entire fight, and you throw them horribly off balance, and then everyone else on your team can take absurd advantage off of everything you do. It also farms extremely fast. It's one way to think about PL Ags is it's almost equivalent to the Mirana Ags. You throw it at a creep wave or whatever, and it'll just clear it out entirely almost on its own. It makes you like decently tanky as well. It helps you farm a shit ton, not just through clearing camps, but also through making sure you don't lose a lot of health, and it lets you save your doppelganger. So like if I'm able to farm and just throw a lance, and then if I get, like a Ricky comes up or something, I can get out of the cloud and then like press W and get out of there. Whereas before, to farm on PL, you would have to, press W and get your illusions to tank everything and all that sort of thing. It helps you farm a ton, helps you play safer. The talents work pretty well around synergizing with the build decently. I played one game of it, and it was really good until I was copying Sumail's build word for word, because I was like, this satanic makes no sense. But Sumail is an absurdly good player, and he's like the only one doing this very effectively, so I'm just going to do what he does. And Satanic was horrendous. Never go Satanic when you do this.
Yeah. To tie it all back to
maybe
our
not
first
never.
segment
Yeah.
about not following builds blindly.
Yeah, don't. I mean, maybe it worked for his game, and but like, we lost the game. Basically, as soon as I spent 6K gold on Satanic, we just like dropped off, and someone was like, "God, I feel like PL does nothing." And then in game, I was just like, it's only because I just wasted 6,000 gold on a Satanic that has accomplished literally nothing. And they were like, "Yeah, that makes sense. Good fucking game, dude."
Yeah,
yeah.
We could rename this podcast "Satanic Haters Thursday" because boy, we're not fans of that item.
It might have been good for like his game or whatever, but it was such like what was it? If I went like Lincoln's Butterfly or something, because like man, I was against some like wild stuff that game. But as far as his talents go, like first talent plus 75 Spirit Lance damage, that's really good. Like Shuriken Toss does a lot of damage, and its talent at like level 20 is plus 75 damage because it bounces around and stuff, so it's decent. But if you have Ags, I mean PL Ags does the same thing. So you get like level 12 and you have like a 400 damage Spirit Lance. No, it's not that much. It's like 250 plus 75, yeah. So like 325 Spirit Lance bouncing around and also spawning illusions that are doing, diffusal blade hits and that sort of thing. Then you get 15% cooldown reduction at level 15 or 8 stats. Both of them are good, but I think I go for the cooldown reduction. And then you can get like the evasion or magic resist doesn't matter too much. And then like a Phantom Rush range versus strength, you just kind of, take it as you need it. But it's really like the first two talents that really, really solidified all completely. Kind of like how Ember Spirit, with his level 10 talent, gets like absurdly good.
Yeah.
Also with PL, like once you get plus 75 Spirit Lance damage and then next 15% cooldown reduction comes after, it's like super, super viable, honestly. It's just a strong ass spell now.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. I can see that. I know I've seen, I think maybe like 2 or 3 PLs this patch, and the Ags is really cool. It's one of those ones that like I doubted at first. I was like, this seems pretty counterintuitive, but it's actually like wild good.
Yeah.
I
as far
think
as like the evasiveness of the hero, like especially as a mid laner, he just makes way more sense as a mid than a carry. Like I was kind of looking to see what other PL players were doing on Dota buff, and all of them were just like playing him like it was TI5 and nothing had ever changed. And so I didn't really learn a lot looking at other good PL players, which is normally what I say to do. But like you get Ags, or you have like Treads, Aki, Ags, and then you go Blink or Diffusal Blade and then Blink Dagger. And between like when you press W, you take 0 damage. So as long as you haven't taken damage for like a second, if you press W, you'll be able to blink out of like almost anything. And so you can be like absurdly evasive and spawning all these illusions from afar. Because the old PL was like you could W and then you wouldn't have an escape to get like 2 illusions, but now you can just like press Q from outer space and you have like an army of illusions to play with, which is it's just like super good. Yeah, it's honestly really good, just at like creating a lot of disruption and making them focus on not killing your team, just focusing on these illusions and trying to deal with all this random stuff going on.
Yeah, and it's a stat item, right? And so your stats are going to all go to your illusions as well and give them damage and armor, etc. So that's interesting.
All get like 100, or they all get like 375 health when you buy Ags, increase or whatever.
Yeah.
And
so
magic. It's good.
So what is your overall build with PL, like in order, give or take, of course?
Yeah. So it's like treads. I actually do think I just like stout quelling on this hero mid for the most part. Poor Man's Shield is good too, depending on the matchup. Actually, Poor Man's Shield is just better than stout quelling. You actually have a ton of damage on this hero to start out. I think you have like 66 damage or 68 or something if you go Poor Man's Shield level 1, which is like that's a ton. Like you could counter a Shadow Fiend with that level of damage, and that's why you can go walk up to an Invoker and just beat the shit out of him, and he's like, I do 40 damage, please stop, and you have a Poor Man's Shield and you do like 70. But yeah, so you get Poor Man's Shield, Bottle, Treads, and I think Aquila is pretty good to go. Just to give you like a bunch of damage, a little bit extra sustain, keep you going. Like Bottle plus Aquila, you're set. Maybe a range up if you want to just keep spamming hardcore. But your first real item is you're just going to rush the Ags. Then after Ags comes Diffusal Blade or Blink, depending on what you need more. Normally I would go towards the Diffusal Blade because it's like that's the most transformative item possible for PL. Then you get the Blink afterwards, and then you just kind of go play it from there. You don't actually need your Manta too badly. It's nice, but it doesn't really. Like, PL is another one of those heroes that needs every item to radically shift the way he plays. Diffusal Blade definitely radically shifts you. Aghanim's totally. Blink Dagger gives you like 3 magnitudes more of maneuverability to work around with, and just like a mid hero being able to get to places is super good. And the Manta just kind of gives you more illusions that you already have in another escape, or another pseudo escape kind of. So it's not entirely necessary. Like this game, I was against like a Necrophos, a Doom, and a Lena. So I should have just gone Lincoln Sphere, and maybe Manta after Lincoln Sphere as well. But it's not like, oh, you're playing PL, get a Manta. Oh, you're playing Terrorblade, get a Manta. Oh, you're playing an Illusion Hero, get a Manta. I don't think it's like that anymore on PL. So I think you just kind of play it like whatever you need.
Yeah, I think one of the big things with Manta, when I haven't played PL recently as an aside to this, but Manta always was used as a kind of accelerator to get you into fighting shape. Like when a fight starts, you're like, all right, Manta, and then create a ton of illusions because your illusions are better at creating illusions than you are. But the thing about it is, if you have Aghanims, then you don't need that illusory aid. You can just get your illusions from using your first Spirit Lance, and then that's your It's kind of like it's kickstarting your fight, right? So maybe that's like one of the big things with Manta is like you can just get
that makes perfect
stats from somewhere else, but you don't need it to accelerate the beginning of a fight and get you into fighting shape.
The only thing I would say with that is like it is really attractive to just get the, as you said earlier in this podcast, the casual Yasuo, because PL is actually pretty slow. I think he has like 290 move speed or something awful like that. Maybe a little higher, but pretty much any hero that doesn't either have like a Windlace or travels or like a Yasha item just feels absurdly slow these days. What do you start? Yeah, he starts with 290. So I mean, as far as your item build goes, you end up with just like 290 move speed plus treads and then nothing else. But again, I didn't have my blink because I itemized for this stupid ass satanic and I forgot to get a blink the game that I played. So I think if you have the blink, the mobility is not as big an issue and you can jump over cliffs and stuff. But there's definitely a lot of attraction towards the Manta. But I feel like that's a game by game thing. It definitely situational on the new PL rather than like you don't need it, because as you said, you can use your Spirit Lance to generate all your illusions for you. You don't need to like Manta and send them in and then wait for Discord to create itself. You just press Q, Discord, done.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about CM, and the big reason I'm excited to play CM is I will say this is not the standard, as I say this, but it is something that I think has a lot of potential. And the standard CM stuff is still, the tried and true Tranquils, Urn, Glimmer Cape, Force Staff, Blink Dagger stuff. Midas, if you can swing it, jungle till level 2 and then rotate if you can, yada yada yada. But the cool new way I'm interested in seeing CM played, and is taking advantage of her level 10 talent, which, let's see if I pull it up right here. Her level 10 talent is a choice between damage and magic resistance. And who cares about magic resistance, right?
Yeah,
we care about damage. Magic resistance doesn't do damage. Damage does damage, right?
Totally does.
So the thing about it, right, is 60 damage is nice if you have a Tranquil Boots, right? But you know what's good with damage? Attack speed.
Oh my god, I'm so good.
And so if you go Treads, which is pretty reasonable to get, because she, despite the fact that she's squishy, she's good at farming, right, because of Frostbite. The thing that you do then is you get, let's say you're getting your early items, you have Brown Boots, Windlace, and a magic stick or a magic wand. Then you just go into Treads, and then not only do you have this attack speed to complement your level 10 talent, which is obviously going to make you better in fights, but also better at farming, it also is going to make you tanky, which Tranquil Boots do not, right? They make you fast, which is, a huge value.
Get armor, though.
Yeah.
Like, if you get Tranquil Boots, you don't really need to worry about having an armor item on a CM.
That's true. You're not wrong.
But magic damage, no one cares.
Yeah. The thing about Treads, too, is it's going to give you, a couple hundred health or whatever. So it is good, and I like it. I also like Treads Rubik now. I don't think I have not done Treads Rubik, but I've been I want to say theory crafting, but I'm just so into
with Armlet. Don't even.
No, not Treads Rubik with Armlet. That's pretty overkill. But I do like Armlet Rubik. Honestly, got a big buff with that damage talent. Like that's like as kind of like semi joke, semi serious as the Armlet Rubik build is. It is actually like a big buff to Armlet Rubik to have the attack damage.
Let's be real though. If if I'm ever playing Rubik, it's because I'm solo supporting, and I'm gonna have to get the 60 gold per minute.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it's fun to play around with at the very least. I'm interested
Yeah,
to see it. But CM, the choice is less contentious, right? CM, it's
yeah.
more like, let me actually look at ability builds. She has a 54% win rate, by the way,
Yeah,
almost 55.
she's decent right now. The root change is honestly incredible for her.
Yeah, the damage has a 1.3% higher win rate, which is not huge, but it is significant over the course of, thousands and thousands of games.
Yeah,
Um,
kind of like that.
so,
Like -4 armor on acid spray on Alchemist.
oh yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Um, so Treads CM is what I'm gonna be trying this game, unless of course I'm playing super poor, and then I'm just gonna like suck it up and build tranquils, and not have a lot
Yeah,
of fun. I got this inspiration because I played a game. It was a 70-minute PA game I was talking about before, and the CM on the other team like almost single-handedly carried the team. Like she basically free farmed the enemy jungle for 6 minutes or something, and she just went like brown boots Midas. Let's see, I actually have it written down. She went Brown Boots, Midas, Glimmercape, Treads, Drums, Blink, E-Blade, Bloodthorn as a
Jesus
5.
Christ.
It was a long game, but
Yeah,
because she has that GPM talent late game, and yeah, level 20 she has 120 GPM. But so she got this good start from jungling in their jungle, unfettered by our team, and then she just escalated and she became such a problem. Like it was literally impossible to deal with a support CM that at this point has not only a Midas giving her all that extra GPM, but she also has the 120 GPM talent, and she was farming lanes and stuff because she had treads and a 60 extra damage at level 10.
yeah,
So that was really like inspiring. I was like, man, I want to try this.
yeah. It
So
seems like one of the key things that I think about when I see these like plus damage talents is it's not really correct to think of it like, oh, this is only good if you're like a right click carry. But I mean, supports do throw out a lot of right clicks, right? Like sometimes
yeah,
your spells have cooldowns, and it's kind of just like added bonus. Like maybe in a vacuum, obviously it's not going to dent a carry significantly, but just think about how attractive it is. Like when you're Juggernaut and you gain 20 damage and you feel that much stronger. Like, what if your support was also hitting for an additional 60 damage? Like, yeah, maybe they only attack half as often as you do, which I mean, they attack more than half as often. Sorry, I had to cough. But like it's impactful. Like it's only one of the like I want to say like revenue streams only from damage. It's just another like damage stream coming out of your support that like radically shifts it. Like let's say they get 3 auto attacks out in a fight. Even if you like remove how much armor people have, that's like 90 health removed from a hero through one talent.
yeah,
And if you look at other things like 10% spell amp or something like that, like that's not even going to accumulate to plus 90 damage. But like another 6, like if CM frostbite someone in Crystal Novas, she's probably going to get at least 3 auto attacks on someone while that's happening, and that's even after having like 10 armor or something. Yeah, that's another 90 health dropped off, and that can be a kill very easily.
yeah. And it's also there's a huge element of surprise and unexpected damage, I think. Like when you see a CM, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get rooted, I'm gonna take a Frost Nova to the face, and I'm gonna take some damage, whatever. But then she slaps you in the face with a little snowflake or whatever, and then you think, oh, this is gonna do like 30 damage because I have armor and she's a
Yeah,
CM.
you'll think it'd
But
be
instead, it's like, oh, okay, this
inconsequential.
did 80,
Yeah,
and that difference in and of itself is like, oh boy, like I need to do something differently. Like you can't just shirk off the last hits like you normally would be able to. And
sure.
it does help you jungle because you could frostbite the large creep, but then Sam's pretty slow at killing the small creeps when she does 40
Yeah.
damage or whatever.
Yeah, like most
So
CMs I see, like if you have to kill a Hellbear camp, they'll like frostbite the big one, and then just they have to wait an entire frostbite cooldown, and then use another one, and then they're like half out of mana, and they don't have enough mana for a Nova frostbite combo to gank lane. But if you have a plus 60 damage talent, you can frostbite a big one and then kill the small one just with your right clicks. Or you're dealing with like the troll camp or something, frostbite the big troll, and then you can actually right click down the small ones like in the duration of your frostbite, rather than like, do I need to use another frostbite on like one of these little dudes and then I right click another little dude? Like, does this make any sense? But it's actually like, I don't know. And you can like last hit on your tower now with that. So like if someone seeds you lane, you like, and the lane's pushing in, you're not just like, well, that was pointless. Like I don't know, it helps you farm a ton. Like you'll probably get more out of that than like if you had a GPM talent or something like that. Unless
Yeah.
you're me playing Rubik, where you can't jungle or farm anything because you have 4 cores and 7 years ago.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Okay, so let's talk about the synergy, direct synergy between these two heroes before we close it out and go to the
Oh
game.
yeah, I can do it. Unga Unga, PL want use spell. Unga Unga, CM use help him use spell with mana.
There, perfect. And I think yes, and one of the other nice synergies that we kind of brought up indirectly is you, of course, are a hero that begs to be dealt with, right? Like
Yeah,
PL is one of those very common heroes where people overcommit to countering him, or I mean, I suppose appropriately commit to countering him. And the thing about it is that when you are in a fight and you're begging to be dealt with, CM then can get an ult off much more easily, and she can
yeah,
go kind of to use the term again, unfettered by the enemy team trying to CC her or try to kill her, etc. So
yeah.
that's something that I'm looking forward to.
There's like an element of hero synergy that I'm really, really attracted to. That I like when Ember Spirit first came out, I was really, really looking for a way to play him, or like how because I just like loved the hero to death. I just thought he was so cool and he's so fun to play. But no one was really having a lot of success with him, and so I was just like stalking on the old Dat Dota. Like every time he was picked in pros, how did it work correctly? And the person who actually figured out how to play Ember Spirit before he was really, really decoded and people started playing him poorly. But like the first kind of foray into successful Ember Spirit play was this dude Miracle, who's a Southeast Asian player who's credited with the modern way to play Naga and a bunch of other stuff. He had military service, so he couldn't actually like ride his initial wave of being really
Yeah,
really good. But he's like incredibly smart, and this was before his Naga got big. Another thing that he came up with was these the Discord draft for Ember Spirit. He'd run things like Clockwork and heroes with like a lot of weird control. He'd do like Clockwork and like Lich, and then a and like an Enigma or something like that. Like that would be their draft. I don't know if it was like his draft specifically, but it's a cool idea in a team that he played on. So I'm gonna say
yeah,
he at least had some form of it. But it would just be like a lot of drafts that like made the other team like either force them to split or force them to just like be in a really weird situation. Like they got to avoid a black hole, but they also have to avoid like chain frost going on, and then Clockwork is hooking in. Just like a lot of crazy stuff to deal with, and then also an Ember Spirit that could make incredible use of all the space that was being provided. And I think CM is really similar. Like CM's pretty squishy. She doesn't want to get focused down. Like the second you isolate a CM, she's just done. And PL is like a one-man Discord engine now. You press Q, you throw it on someone, you start attacking someone else. You press W to like disperse the second they go on you. And while they're dealing with like 3 different locations of interest in a team fight, CM is just like, I'm just gonna waltz up here and press R and then glimmercate myself, and they'll be like, shit, we can't deal with all this crap. And then you just like you can just win a team fight off of pure confusion that you sow.
yeah. It makes a lot of sense. All right,
Yeah,
so I
think it's
think
cool. That's what I
I
want to
think
do.
on that note, we are going to hop into our game. Of course, our VODs will be on youtube.com/.ptv1. That is a numerical one, as I always say. And that's that. So,
Let's
bye.
play. I want to play.
Alright, hello everyone. We are back. We have just concluded our game. It was not a long game this time compared to other previous weeks, recent weeks rather.
It could have been though.
It could have been. It had the potential, but well, first off, it was a loss. It was a pretty decisive loss, but it was against a Luna strat, right? So it was the kind of thing where we lost like 2 team fights, and then the whole game was just absolutely gone.
Yeah, then we lost all of our racks. We lost 2 team fights and we lost 2 raxes. That's really how it goes.
Yep. So yeah, Luna's a good hero. All right. So I'll just list off the teams. The enemy team had an off-lane Faceless Void, a mid-lane Invoker, and a safe lane tri-lane of Disruptor, Lion, and Luna. We had a safe lane that was mostly just Lifestealer alone. We had a roaming / off-lane Earthshaker. I was mostly jungling for the first bit because the Faceless Void versus Lifestealer matchup was going well, we thought. And then we had a mid PL, of course, and an offlane Axe. So, laning phase wise, things were pretty manageably okay. Would you agree, Proud?
Yeah, I'd say so. Everything kind of seemed pretty fine. There were a couple times where I should have either had a TP on me or I should have like made a decision on a fight to go to. That didn't really like work out in my favor, so I feel like my rotations were a little weak. But as far as like the way that the actual laning phase went on, it was pretty manageable. Like I got roamed on a ton mid, but I lived through one, and then we reacted to the other that I think I probably would have lived through anyways.
Uh-huh.
But yes, it seemed fine.
Yeah, I know, like, so I, instead of lane supporting, because, like, lane supporting as a solo CM is not great. If you're in a tri lane, it's great because you can have a lot of kill potential. But unfortunately, as a solo CM, that was not the case because solo, excuse me, a solo CM cannot zone a faceless void with a poor man's shield. Like, that's just not a thing that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I ended up just, like, basically sacking it, and I rotated to mid lane when you were getting ganked, but other than that, I just jungled. And I just rushed a Midas, which honestly, like, was not the play, but I was just being stupid and greedy.
Yeah. We're high on your own fumes. Well, you had
Let's
more
go.
net worth than our axe at 10 minutes, so
Yeah,
you
well, he
just
also
got
died,
some.
like, he also died a couple times in laning
Yeah,
phase.
he was 700 net worth under their faceless void. To be fair, so
Yes. Um, but yeah, so that was kind of my arrogance, I suppose, because like the lanes looked like they were going fine. Like we were like behind by just a little bit, like overall, I think. But like when I was watching my safe lane, I was like, they're just trading farm. Void's coming out a little behind, so we're okay.
yeah.
But as the game continued, I should say, I got my Midas at 10 minutes. Our faceless void also bought a Midas, and he got it. I mean, excuse me, our life stealer
Lifestealer, yeah.
got his Midas at 11 minutes after getting phase boots and a Blightstone. So we had a Midas life stealer, which, as you can imagine, did not go great.
Yeah,
And
he
by
finished
not
a
go great, I mean
wand
it was
too.
terrible.
Why do you spend money to finish a wand if you're interested in a Midas, and then
Yeah,
make the call at like 11 minutes?
yeah, it was not great. I'll say that. I was all excited because I was like, okay, he has Glove of Haste. I saw a recipe coming out. I was like, oh, he's buying an armlet. That's good. That's a good armlet timing. And then I look like a minute later. I'm like, oh, when did he buy a Midas? Oh, why does he not
Yeah,
have an armlet? Oh, okay. Yeah. So that was not great, I will say. That really contributed to a lot of our weakness in fighting early. Like we had few team fights that just went awry because he had like Midas and an Echo Saber, and that's it during team
yeah.
fights. And that's not.
An attack speed item, and then an item that scales like inversely with your attack speed. Like, okay.
Yeah. So that was less than ideal. I will say so. Let's just talk specifically about our heroes because I think everybody can kind of, if you haven't watched the VOD, you can imagine
Okay,
basically
well,
how
no,
this game went.
this is the perfect example of not understanding how to play around your team. Like, if you have a Crystal Maiden on your team as Lifestealer, the one item that you do have shouldn't be an Echo Saber. Like, you have all the mana regen in the world. You have two spells that cost mana.
Yeah.
Um, you don't need both a wand and an Echo Saber. So in the future, if you're playing Lifesteal and you have a CM on your team, look at the mana items you can take out. Echo Saber really does almost nothing for you if you already have like a Midas and some decent attack speed. Wand is really just for the health gain. So yeah, like both of those were instead just like an armlet, and you could just go like a straight armlet deso kind of thing with like a windlace and like a raindrop or something. If you're
Yeah.
really worried about your health, like raindrop instead of stick is or wand. If you're not worried about the mana, is pretty solid. So that would have been, if I was the life stealer, that's how I would have optimized this. I would say I don't need mana, I don't need this wand, I don't need this Echo Saber. I can just get straight up like armlet and a windlace and just run at these kids.
Yeah. So, all right. What ended up happening, I will say, is not as important as the mechanics of our experience in the game playing our relative heroes, because I think every single listener can imagine a Luna game where you lose two team fights and then the Luna takes your entire base. So that's not interesting. So let's
Yeah,
talk about the specifics of our experience on each hero. I will
sure.
say, I guess just mine is probably quicker. On CM, I played a little too greedy, but I honestly I think I could have totally gotten away with it if we weren't gimped by the Lifestealer's item choices, and like his inability to fight in a like mid game sense.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if you had a life stealer that can actually mid game team fight, then because part of the way you're itemizing, you say, okay, I have an incredible mid game team fight when I have like a life stealer on my team, so I can afford to go a little greedier to secure a bit more of the late game. But if then he itemizes to not have that strong mid game, then everything goes awry.
yes, and so I ended up building, like I said, Tread's Glimmer Cape and then a Blink Dagger, and that's as far as I got. But I will say the biggest downside I think to this build that I encountered with both the Treads and the Glimmer Cape is a I when I was low health, like if I was jungling or whatever, I stayed low
Yeah,
health. I
you just had
think
to go back to base.
yeah, and the issue is like normally you think like okay, well if you have like health problems, buy an urn, but you can't really buy an urn after buying a Midas, and like you're not gonna buy urn at 15 minutes. That's
Yeah,
not
you could have
exact.
gone force staff. Like force staff is kind of my like, oh, I need some HP regen,
Yeah,
and I'm
just
like,
have a casual ring of regen for a while. That's
yeah,
fair.
the force staff is yeah. Like on Venge when I don't go tranquil boots, I almost always go force staff because like that between
I mean,
mana boots and a force staff, I've like it's a good item and I have enough regen that I can stay on the map all the time and walk around saving people.
yeah, I mean, I would go force staff every single game anyway, but that is a very good point.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean,
Um,
like the reason why. I mean, like well, I mean, like force staff is good, but as far as first item, I'm always between like either medallion or force staff, and I think
yeah,
if you like don't have tranquils, like if you can go, I like medallion tranquils and mana boots force staff. I think those are the two like venge support builds that I think are like really good.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, personally, I like treads, but
Yeah, no,
um,
treads are good.
but yeah. So anyway, as the game
Oh, wait,
scaled,
shoot,
the other
sorry, I gotta say, I'm with the Dominator. You could have got a Dom. We didn't have a Dom on our team,
yes,
and Dom CM is legit.
yeah, I suppose I could have gotten Dom
Especially with
instead
the
of
extra
Glimmer.
attack speed with your 60 damage, you're not even thinking about your theme.
Well, I mean, that was my theme, but I was trying to win the game also. That was like
Dom is
because
good. That would have been a good item, man.
yeah, but like I wanted the Glimmer Cape for Disruptor and Lion, who were just like murking you guys. And the same thing
Yeah,
with
you're
the
not
Luna
wrong.
ult.
Should
Um,
have got a guess should have got a helmet of Dominator instead of a Midas. Then it would have been
yeah,
acceptable.
probably
Did you get
the
Midas before Boots? I guess that's fine.
no, it's not fine. It's really not fine, but I did it anyway.
Yeah, no, it's
The
not.
issue is like so if I hadn't dedicated myself from the very start of the game to rushing Midas. I think if I had done that, it would have been better because it would have had it at like 8 minutes ish, 7 minutes ish.
Uh
But
huh.
instead, I kind of like futzed around doing other things,
Okay, so you were
and
futzing a bit.
yeah, and I was moving around, so my jungling was not efficient, but my rotations also were not like I didn't continue my rotations and
You didn't
aggression
have a
across the
good
map.
rhythm going on. You were
Yeah, so
trying to.
it's like it just delayed my Midas, so
Can you try to
like
like illustrate me your rhythm like in a with some rhythm what
like
did you do
instead of
first and
being
then what did you do? Like give me that.
instead of being in a constant like instead of every minute it was going to be like proper, I it was more like the minute was proper and then the next one was like minute 12, minute 13, minute
Okay.
6, like it was a little off. um but so that did not go great. The other key issue I ran into, and I think this is an issue that CMs just run into in general, is I just had mana problems because unless you go like mana boots Aether Lens, you're just really tight on mana if you have a Glimmer Cape. Glimmer Cape obviously is like a very popular core item on CM that is built like
Yeah.
virtually every game.
Do you just mean in terms of your mana pool? Like
Yeah,
you didn't have a big enough pool? Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's why I wish you
yeah,
got the force staff.
yeah.
Solved all your problems.
Yeah, or like a Yule's. The
I don't think you should have got Yules.
that's really just such an issue because like all right, so picture like my one of the big things was they were pushing our base, right? And so we would be wave clearing and all that, and like I would throw out one ability, and like let's say I throw out a Frost Nova or I frostbit one of the Manta illusions, and then suddenly a team fight starts and I cannot even use all my items and all my abilities. Like I cannot ult and use a Glimmer Cape and use
Yeah.
I can't do one full rotation of my spells, and that sucks. Like that's honestly such a problem. So I really wish I had something to mitigate that. Even when I had like I changed my treads to int, and even that was like did not make the
Yeah,
adequate
that was
enough of
one
a
of the
difference.
things like I wanted to say about CM treads. It's like, well, yeah, because I mean, tranquils are great, but int treads actually would help so much. Here, it does have such a mana
Yeah,
pool issue, but
it helped,
yeah,
but
like you,
it's not enough.
a little bit of something, something.
And I
Like
didn't
I like
go.
wand a lot on CM. I think
Yeah,
is pretty cool.
that's what I was about to say. Yeah.
You did get your
Um.
wand, yeah.
So that was a core issue. That being said, like the hero does feel strong. Like we were talking about earlier, she has like a 55 almost percent win rate overall, and
Yeah.
she fits the metagame of like roots being really good, really well. It was
Yeah.
just like a lot of issues compounded into one whole loss. And also like I don't play a ton of CM. Like I have
Sure.
some experience on the hero, but I was like watching like I was looking at Dota buff references and stuff at the same time because I was just like there's just too many things to manage. So that was
Do
my
you
game at least.
do you feel like do you like Midas on the hero, or do you
Oh
feel
yeah.
like you just I don't know, because like 'cause maybe if the game was a bit better and you were able to get a lot of gold, then you could have got something to fill out your mana pool, and then you wouldn't have had as many like mana issues like that. Or because I mean, like you had enough gold to buy a bunch of items. Like you got an item after Glimmer Cape, but you still kind of had like a mana like issue. Like, what do you think you should have built differently to deal with that mana issue?
I mean, I still think I like first. I think Midas is the play. If nothing else, just she needs XP so bad. That is
Yeah,
like one of the big things. That's why even way back in the day, CM is always like Midas has always been a high priority item.
yeah,
But I
it's
will.
great to get.
I think in my previous CM games, I generally go Aether Lens, whether it's Tranquil's Aether Lens or Mana Boots Disassemble Aether Lens.
Yeah,
And
you
I
like Aether? Okay.
Yeah, and Aether Lens allows you to not pick her cast range talent, or if you do pick it, you have super long cast range.
Yeah.
Um, I believe the alternative, let's see, alternative cast range is 250 health, and she also doesn't really build health items.
Yeah, they're
So
both really good.
yeah, so that was kind of a hard decision to make. I do think Aether Lens would be the play. Maybe like it's just so hard because like she really wants that Glimmer Cape, and you want to have it in like a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
Maybe Glimmer Cape Aether Lens and then Blink last, because realistically, like the Aether Lens is enough range to keep you out of the fight. That
Yeah.
like Blink is just like is a luxury. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
sure
more like to
honestly.
get
It's
incredible
just
ultimate or something like that in trees or something.
yeah
I don't know. I'm when I play CM, I'm just a four staff support player. Like that's just what I just like
yeah
four staff. I mean, obviously I'll go blink first on almost every, but you know if I'm blink force on almost any hero except for like
yeah me too.
Lion maybe where I no even Lion I go like blink force. I do
Yeah
go Ags after that though, just because your mana pool gets so stringent once you get level 18. But yeah, I don't know. I just love four staff and it's a great item. So I just wanted to say that.
yeah. I mean, there's a reason it's standard. I don't disagree, but I do think Glimmer Cape is a similarly amazing item in
Yeah,
many
no,
situations.
I don't disagree. Just like a hero that's as slow as CM, like I think like I don't think this is the thing to do, but just for me personally, I
Yeah,
think on CM I would normally go like four staff than
yeah,
Glimmer because it like fills out your mana pool and also solves a bit of your mobility issues. But yeah, that's
yeah.
just me.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, so let's talk about PL a little bit because this
All
here
right.
is a bit more unfamiliar to most people, I think.
Yeah, so I actually really like this. I laned fantastically. They picked an invoker, and of course I just immediately picked PL. Didn't worry about any counters or anything, and I didn't get countered or any business like that. Any harder than I already was, or than I was already. Originally, I was like afraid of this disruptor because I was like, oh man, they'll just like glimpse me into Static Storm. But glimpse is this thing where it goes through almost everything to avoid it. You can't even phase shift out of it with puck. You can't like shadow demon disruption someone. If you OD imprison someone at the end of the imprison, they're gonna show up where they got glimpsed to. There's almost nothing you can do to stop it except for like Manta CK ulti, which is basically also Manta with a bigger window, and Doppelganger, the PLW. And I kind of almost mostly attribute this to the fact that it just like the ability came out after glimpse. Like I don't think they purposely were like, and also you can't glimpse this one. It was just like they made it, and it didn't have
Yeah,
any weird mechanics overlapping that allowed you to be glimpsed out of phase shift. It's just like, well, hey, this is a later ability, so it has less exceptions. So I would just like I got glimpsed once or twice, and I was just like, whoop, I'm not glimpsed anymore. Everything's great.
yeah,
So that actually felt really strong against the disruptor for that one. So there's one counter you don't have to worry about. Um, but yeah, mid lane went well. They tried to kill me at level 1 before I had my because I at level 1 I just like used my Q on Invoker, and then 2 supports showed up, and I was like, here we go, and I got hit by everything in the world, and you saved the courier, which was beautiful, and
yeah.
I
Gotta
fairy
say for you.
fired and then like planted a tree and ate it to survive the last auto attack, and it was close, but I survived that. And Invoker was a little bit behind on experience. The lane ended up pushing into my chat tower because of that, and I just like farmed really well. I got a bunch of CS. There was one time where I got Invoker to like be last hitting under tower, and just because I had more damage than him, I was able to deny two. I was able to die two ranged creeps in a row that were being hit by a tower, and that just like he was like level 3 when I was level 5 after that. Like he needed, you know, those built up range creeps, and I was just like denying him under tower because his supports had already rotated. They can't rotate again, so I'm just sitting under tower like denying everything. And he was just like clearly getting like frustrated, and his supports came immediately afterwards because he was like, guys, this sucks. And then you guys TP'd to save me from that one, and it was just like it was really strong mid. I definitely felt good. I tried to rotate for a couple fights, but our axe kept kind of like chain feeding, and I tried to rotate for one of those. And as soon as I showed up, there was it was like Luna and then one support that killed Axe, and then like I teleported there and I tried to kill the Luna, but then Face's Void showed up and he chronoed and all this shit, and I barely got out, and it was just like, okay, I can't go there, and my tempo got pretty disrupted at that point. I was farming decently and I was still beating Invoker in lane, but there was one fight that happened top that I came for that dissipated before like anything really happened, and then another fight happened there and I hadn't gotten another TP sent out yet, and we just got like wiped, and it was just like a pretty bad situation. So I feel like it was some mix of like my tempo, I didn't do it right, and it was just like a difficult fight, a difficult game to have the correct tempo for. But as far as like I hit level 10, I got 75 damage on my lance, and then I felt really strong. I was able to push a tower by myself when some other stuff was happening. It just like it felt pretty good in general. And by the time once I got the ags, like, you know, I felt really, really, really strong. And then of course once I got I got travels afterwards because we were getting split push really hard, and the 100 move speed honestly helps so much more than the 40. Not going treads, I feel like you actually can do with this PL. Just because like the item slot is so necessary, but it's like every time I got an item, I did feel way stronger.
Yeah, it felt like you were a victim of circumstance, not of the whole structure of the build.
Yeah,
it definitely
I
felt
think
strong.
the BKB sucked though. After I got Blink Dagger, like I just literally didn't use it once. Like I never used my BKB because I was so good at evading everything once I got my Blink with Doppel.
Yeah,
like, I never got hit by shit. And I feel like if I hit linking, like I would use my BKB down to 5 seconds, and then once I like had the gold for another item, I'd probably like replace it with heart or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think also the other big thing was that Disruptor was getting Aghanims, so if you were in a situation that you needed BKB, there was a not insignificant chance you wouldn't be able to use it. I think that was a bad call on my part.
Well, I mean, I also said I was going to get it, so it was just like you were agreeing with me. Because there was like one fight where I felt like I couldn't really get into it, but like as I was playing through the game, I realized like there's no situation where I'm just going to be like running up and right clicking people until the fight has completely dispersed and there's no need for a BKB. Like I never want to put myself in a situation, especially against a Luna with glaives bouncing around. Like BKB is good if you're a right clicker who wants to be in the middle of a fight and wants to just say like fuck you to everything that's happening. But it's like if Luna creates the locus of damage around her, and like the closer you get to this like swarm of shit and these like flying goddamn locusts, butterfly or like glaives that are just like locusts tearing at your skin as you try to get close. I feel like fighting against Luna is like that shitty scene in X-Men 3 where Wolverine is like walking up to Jean Grey in Phoenix mode or whatever, and like her immense power is like tearing his skin apart, and only his incredible regeneration abilities allow him to get close to her at all. That's fighting against Luna. And like BKB has nothing to do with regenerating your skin, as her raw presence evaporates all flesh from your bones. BKB is just for wizard spells, and Luna is not wizard. I mean, she does have wizard spells too, so that's even more shit that makes her kill you the closer you get to her. But like,
what a hero.
BKB doesn't like really solve that. So yeah, like I meleeed her like once, but that was after we had killed everyone, and there was like a lion fighting my illusions in the back, and Disruptor had like died, and Axe called the void somewhere else, and like then I got all up in her, but then BKB didn't matter at all.
Yeah, it definitely was death by 1,000 cuts, I suppose.
Yeah,
and then like
that
one huge
all
cut,
at once
and another huge
blades.
cut. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any more content in the game? Like honestly, I feel like the moral of the story is just like if you're playing Lifestealer, don't go Midas Echo. Go like maybe Midas Armlet.
I'd say with the PL, like you really do have to understand that you are not the PL of old. You are a Q bot, and you use your Q at people. I really felt the mana regen that you were giving me. Like I was just spamming that shit. It was awesome. Like all I was doing all game was just like Q Q Q Q. I was like crying, but just Qs.
Yeah. Apparently, the thing to do nowadays on CM is to max mana. Is to either you put at least 3 points in your what's called mana
People have been
regen
doing,
aura.
dude. I don't remember a single time where people weren't doing that and I wasn't complaining about it. Like I don't
Um,
think that you're. I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong that like maybe something did happen and it's now the thing to do for whatever reason. But like, there's never been a time where people weren't telling me that was the thing to do.
well,
Aside from you,
I
after I complained to you about how bad it is.
I mean, I don't like it either, but I realize why it is the thing to do, and it's just in that it lets you jungle more efficiently, even if you are a lane support.
Yeah.
Because when I had so early on in laning phase, so I started the game with Tango, Salve, Smoke, Courier, two wards, and then two clarities, and it was like a real struggle. So I did. Let's see. I went Frostbite level 1, and then Aura, Frost Nova, Aura, Alt, Frostbite. And then I got my final point in Aura at 8 to max it. And before I had level 3 Aura, honestly, like, if I did not have clarities from the start, or if I did not ferry out clarities after that, I would not have been able to jungle. And that was
Yeah.
even when I was not jungling, like, nonstop. I will say also the big mistake I was making as a not Crystal Maiden player that I learned almost immediately after jungling for a bit
Sure.
is don't waste your mana using Frost Nova to kill stuff because
Oh yeah,
Frostbite
no,
is
don't do
better
that.
and hasn't like I don't know, part of me is thinking like, oh well, Frost Nova helps me kill the little ones so I can move on.
It's
But
AoE.
really, yeah, well really I should just like leave them alone and then come back 6 seconds later and kill it and not have to deal with any crap.
Yeah.
So that was silly of me. But yeah, it just lets you jungle way faster.
Yeah.
If
I
you're
mean,
not playing this like aggressive.
if you play the tempo of it right, like I would enjoy like ganking at 4 with both your spells because I mean the thing about CM that's so crazy is like she has two nukes and both of them are also crowd control. Like that's wild as fuck. That's incredible.
Yeah.
There's no other hero that has two damaging spells that also like stop people from escaping. That's like she's like the only hero outside of like outside of no, yeah, that's the only one that's I was gonna say outside of
Lion.
Skywrath. No, only one of his spells does damage. She has two spells that
Oh, you're
both
right.
nuke and crowd control you. That's the there's no other hero in the game that has that. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you can think of one, but it's not nearly as crazy. But like, yeah,
Arc
like that.
Warden if you have both Arc Wardens.
Yeah, they those both do slow you. Yeah, okay, all right. There's no other hero that one has an ability that stops people from moving and also has a slow. I'll just completely describe her abilities and say no hero also has the
Treant
exact same two
Protector.
abilities. Ooh, yeah. You know what? He does. He does. Is the stun a nuke though? Does it have bonus damage on it?
It does have bonus. No, it might not. I don't
If it
know.
doesn't, you're fucked. Then
Um,
that's just Lion. Only he has to do it next to a tree and it has to have 5 seconds to warm up. Oh nope, it doesn't have bonus damage. Just a bash. His
okay.
hero is bonus damage just from existing though, so I'll give you a
Oh,
pass on that one.
Jakiro. Jakiro.
Yeah, yeah, WQ on Jakiro. Yeah,
And
it's just that.
Leshrac.
Yeah, technically E does slow. Yeah, you're right. All right.
Um, I
You
don't know
name
any
any others?
others.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Ogre
Anyway,
Magi.
yeah, Ogre Magi. Ogre Magi, incredible ganker too. So this doesn't hurt my point at all. Jakiro, not so much. He's not that great at it. But anyway, CM like those two news, they're good as shit. They're great, but like if you do play the tempo right, like oh hey at level 5 I wasn't going to try to get a kill anyway, and if you are just jungling, then like yeah that's solid.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah,
And like even
Earthshaker if you hit level 3, but
yeah, and you still get the utility of the CC right from both of them, and you still
yeah
get
for
a,
the
a
most
good
part,
amount
yeah.
of damage. But
Yeah.
yeah, it really depends, I suppose, what kind of
As
CM.
long as you're not getting 4 points in aura, that's all I'm gonna say.
No, 3 definitely was like the break point where it felt like I did not need any extra mana regen, and then I
Yeah.
got an extra point in Frostbite, and then I ended up maxing Aura at some point. I think at 8 or 9.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not even like God the yeah. I mean, people always I see a lot of people go for the 4 points in arcane aura just because it takes you from 4 mana regen to 8. Like it just literally fucking doubles
yeah,
for no reason. But the fact of the matter is, like, yes, that may
Aura's
be
still a lot.
attractive. Yeah, like that may be attractive, but like that has implications. It's you're going to spend another level of not having like a max point frostbite. It's not like oh this point was better at level 7. And that is, so I just make my choice on level 7. Like, yeah, it may be a better choice when you're level 7, but once you're level 9 or level 10, you're going to really wish you had like a 6-second cooldown on Frostbite and not, 7. Like, that 4 mana regen is not going to be worth it down the road when you're doing things besides just jungling. Like, at some point, you have to be a hero that does things.
I agree. So maybe next game I play CM, I will be able to do things instead of just getting massacred by a Luna. So that's the game, and that's, well, I suppose that's the game and the podcast. I'm going to do some quick plugs now. Twitch.tv/.ptv is where we're streaming the in-houses that have, I believe, just completed as we finish this recording. They're Wednesday nights at 9 Eastern. We have a YouTube channel where you can watch the VODs from this game. You can watch replay reviews, which are coming out, or in the process of doing, especially over this weekend. There's going to be a lot of them coming out. There's also other stuff there. All the podcasts, of course, if you like to listen to it on YouTube instead. You can send us questions to the Tuesday Q&A on our email, defensethepatients@gmail.com. There's a phone number that I cannot honestly remember, but if you ask us in Discord, we will be able to recite it to you, I promise. And you can also email us MP3s, or you can just show up to the live recording Monday nights at 9 Eastern. And that's how we will do that. Patreon.com/defensepatients. We had a lot of success recently. Roland did a big giveaway impromptu on Wednesday night, or Tuesday night, excuse me. Also, there's our Patreon exclusive episodes. I believe there are commissioned podcasts coming out at some point in the future, and other stuff. And also, I think we hit our $500 goal, so we're going to be doing a 6-hour straight stream once a month of something. We're still undecided. It might be a D&D stream. It might be a straight 6 hours of Dota stream with all the show hosts. Might be some mix of the two. There's talk of playing Settlers of Catan. Who knows? Something will happen, and it will be exciting. Other plugs. I'm at Ursini on Twitter. Our show is @p_show, and Proud is @ProudDota. Our website, which we are very close to having our new one, which is a vast improvement. defensepatients@gmail.com. There's an Amazon banner there.
Really? A website can be better than what we have now?
It's hard to imagine, yes, but that is the case. And last but not least, we have a subreddit r/defensethepatients, and that's about it. I probably missed a plug. iTunes reviews, those help us a lot.
iTunes reviews are great. I do still offer coaching that's been in full swing. I still have room for additional students, but that's been going well. I've been kicking that into high gear, getting a lot of coaching sessions up.
That's good.
Some of them are uploaded to YouTube, some of them aren't. But standard rate is like $15 an hour. If you own a lot of money and you want to pay me more, I'd accept that. If you don't have a lot of money and you can't afford it, also just PM me, because that doesn't really. I mean, if you want my services and money is an issue, we'll work something out. I don't really care.
Yeah, I also I may upload a video of me doing some coaching conversation with a guy that I'm coaching tomorrow. So that might be up on YouTube this weekend. Who knows? So anyway, regardless, that's all fun. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, etc. And good night, or good morning, or good afternoon.